Have you been watching what's happening at Logan International Airport? Well, you should, because it's coming to your neighborhood. Let's talk about it. Welcome everyone, Mark here from Uber Hints. Today finds me in sunny Florida, and it hasn't been very sunny. In fact, every day I've been here, it has been cloudy and overcast and rainy. The sun does come out sporadically, but it has been a rainy spring. So what's happening in Boston? Well, at Logan Airport, there is a proposal that they want to move all Uber, Lyft, and other ride-share cars away from curb drop-off and curb pickup. And this is getting people understandably riled. The stories that I'm reading, I think, are a little bit misleading. So I want to read to you a typical story. This comes from the Boston Herald. Uber and Lyft are fighting Massports. Now, Massport is the Massachusetts Port Authority, and they are in charge of the airports, not just Logan, but all of the airports in the area. Fighting Massport's plan to hike fees and kick the ride-hailing services off terminal curbs as both sides grapple with worsening traffic congestion around the airport. Okay, we're going to talk about this. I think it's interesting that they tend to blame rideshare. And I haven't done the research on this, so I'm speaking here just from pure conjecture. But I wonder, is air travel at Logan in general up? Because if it is, it stands to reason that congestion is going to be up as well. So that's fodder for another video, but I think that is an interesting point to consider. But let's go on. This would be the only airport in the country that doesn't allow ride shares at the curb, Uber spokesman Harry Hatfield said on Monday, or Hartfield, I'm sorry. That's not exactly true, and we'll talk about that. There are some, I know I travel a lot, so although I don't have the statistics, I know there are plenty of airports where you have to go to a certain staging area in order to be picked up. From our point of view, Massport has made a proposal that at the end of the day requires ride shares to pay a lot more and get a lot less in return. Well, of course, they're the government. They're always going to be dipping your pocket. We've talked about this time and again. Now, when I say it's not exactly true that they're the only airport in the country that doesn't allow ride shares at the curb, we could say that's true as far as drop-offs, because every airport I've been to allows you to drop off at the curb. But not every airport allows curbside pickup. So I think they're kind of mincing words here, which Uber is very masterful at. I'm saying mincing words, but it's another way of saying lying. Massport acting CEO John Prankasevich, it looks like. I'm not going to stumble over names. If I have it wrong, I have it wrong. Said that the proposal is part of a two-pronged approach to manage the traffic that flows through Logan Airport, which he says continues to become more congested. Massport is looking to centralize pickups and drop-offs into a central garage and is planning a big construction project to help with the bottlenecked roadways between terminals B and C. The proposal also recommends that the ride-hailing companies be charged $5 per pickup and drop-off. The fee would be $2.50 for rides that are shared. Apps such as Uber and Lyft currently pay $3.25 for pickups only. So they want to boost the fee. Who's going to end up paying that? Well, probably the rider. Although I wonder with Uber if they're going to do a little dipping into the driver pocket too. You know how Uber is. They're going to take anything they can and twist it and say, well, you know, now that we pay more for pickups, I'm sorry drivers, but we're going to have to cut back by 50 cents per pickup. You know they're going to say something like that. And the only reason I say that with such confidence is because the best predictor of future activity is past activity. And they have done things like that in the past. They use excuses in order to pull money away, or at the very least not pay drivers as much as they should. Anytime there's a fee involved, Uber makes 100% sure that it's not coming out of their pocket. There were 12 million Uber and Lyft trips to Logan Airport last year, and 5 million of those trips did not include passengers, officials said. Prankavicius said Massport is hoping to cut back on the amount of those deadheading trips. Now this seems, once again, to be manipulating figures. 12 million Uber and Lyft rides and 5 million of those did not include passengers. Well, that doesn't even make sense. All I'm assuming is they're saying every person that dropped off did not pick up and vice versa. Right? Because they mentioned deadheading trips, and that's what that is. You drop someone off or you take someone somewhere, then you have to go back without a fare. Now, think about it. Isn't that how most people that go to the airport do it? I'm going to drop off a friend, a family member. I drop them off and I go. I'm essentially deadheading back home. Or vice versa. I'm coming to pick up my loved one. What difference does it make if I'm a private car or a rideshare vehicle? I think that is just manipulation. That's just a great way for Massport to have a talking point that sounds, oh my goodness, 5 million cars come in without a ride? No. They either have a ride coming or going. They just don't have a ride in both directions. So they're going to talk to that. Uber has suggested alternative proposals for Massport to allow ride-hailing services to utilize an Uber initiative called Rematch, which allows drivers who drop off a rider to be paired with a rider who's leaving. They kind of sort of have been doing that a little bit in some places. Now, there were a lot of ifs and kind ofs and sort ofs in that sentence because it hasn't really been done uniformly. It's been done, on hit and miss basis. Sometimes I'm surprised when I get to the airport and as I'm pulling around, I already have another pickup. So in a way, the rematch is already being done, but not on a consistent basis and not something that has been implemented formally in many cases. We've been asking for this for 2 years. How can they know it doesn't work if they've never tried? Prankavicius said Massport loves Rematch, but says it doesn't work at the curb. They could have a point there. You know how people are. I know when I travel, I order my Uber before I need it. Sometimes even, and I do this not just with Uber and Lyft, but I do this with taxis and I do this with hotel, sometimes even before I get my bags. Why? Because I know it takes them 20 minutes, 15 minutes to get there. So I like to, be kind of proactive. The problem with that kind of behavior, and I have to admit I'm guilty of it, is that sometimes it takes the bags longer than you think. And now your van, your taxi, your Uber gets there and I'm not there. I don't think I ever do it with Uber and Lyft. I have done it with hotel shuttles, because I know hotel shuttles take a long time to get there. But I'm just giving an example, and I'm sure there are other people that do that with rideshare as well. And you and I have both experienced that as drivers, haven't we? From our perspective, it doesn't work, and we don't have a lot of space. That's a challenge. Lyft also criticized being potentially booted from the curb, adding that the approach would create more challenges for travelers. We know how important it is that riders can affordably and conveniently get to Logan Airport, a Lyft spokesperson said. We're in discussions with Massport about better ways forward that avoid many of the negative consequences of Massport's approach. Now, let's talk about my experience and what's happening at some airports. I can tell you from a rider perspective, having a centralized location, although sometimes I have to walk with my bags a long way, and that's something they have to deal with. They have to find a centralized location that's relatively convenient for the air travelers. But it's kind of nice, because I get there, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be picked up. Sometimes that curb service, it might be a quarter-mile stretch there. And they might say, well, meet me outside, I don't know, door 5. Well, if I've never been to that airport, I might not know where door 5 is. I'm wandering around. I start going the wrong direction. I come back. There's a lot of problems with curbside. Part of the problem, of course, is some airports are very good, but some airports are really bad at their signage and their labeling. And one that drives me nuts is Toronto's Pearson. It drives me crazy, but I don't want to get off on a tangent. But I will say that when I was in Seattle, for example, it was kind of tricky because they didn't have enough signs. They kind of pointed that way. Sort of when your flight attendant says, your exits are here and here. What does that mean, here and here? Most people can look up and find the exits on a plane, right? But when it's vague at an airport, it makes it sometimes hard to find that staging area. So, and when I talk about a staging area, I'm talking about, maybe I'm not using that term correctly, but I'm talking about pickup and drop off area. So for pickup, I kind of like it because as long as, and I'm going to back up, as long as a driver, you know, we have some really, and I've been finding out, we have some really arrogant, self-centered, entitled drivers. And I just know it from my comments. But as long as a driver is helpful to the passenger and says, here's where I'm at, I'm in slot 24. And, you know, that'd be really easy to do because you can have a little message pre-printed. I always used to do that. And then just fill in the pertinent data, like what slot you're in. In other words, you can tell them, here's how you get to the staging area, and I am here. It makes it pretty easy. Drop-off is another matter. When I'm coming to the airport, you know, it's always tight. You're always crunched for time. You want to be dropped off as close as you can to the correct desk, right? If I'm flying Southwest, Delta, whatever, I want to be dropped off at the curb where I can go in and check in for Southwest or check in for Delta. I don't want to be way, way off somewhere else. That's the reason I'm getting dropped off and not taking my own car. If I want an inconvenience, I drive myself. Okay, so that's it. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I think that neither side is being honest. I think there are some pros, there are some cons. I like it for being picked up at the airport. I don't like it for being dropped off. And again, with a caveat, as long as it's clear. The signage is good and you're not walking a half a mile to get to your ride share. As far as the pickup fees, it's a money grab. I don't think there's much discussion there, but I'd love to hear your perspective. All right, everybody, as always, I encourage you to leave your comments down below. Please like and share the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell icon up above so you know when I post new videos. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mark from Uber Hints.